Hi, I'm Tim. I decided to start TRT in my 20s. For Christmas in December years ago, I got a little adjustable 40-pound dumbbell set. And it was a few days after that I started my first training log and did my very first recorded workout. By recorded, I don't mean with video, just I recorded it in the log. That was, I believe, 4 logs ago. A little just college ruled notebook is how I've been doing it for years. I'm on number 4 now, but this is my very first one. At 14, I began training. Shortly later, I got access to actual free weights where I eventually did the bulk of my style of training. And recorded every single workout the entire time. Over the years, I've done multiple different styles of training because, of course, I'm going to have tried different things. If something's not working, the only options you eventually end up to are try something new or quit. And I obviously never quit, which meant over the years, I tried lots of stuff, some of it good, some of it bad. But I never had a massive spike in progress that many guys would expect to have new in puberty. But also, being a young guy, of course, you weren't satisfied with your progress. Of course, you wanted to get bigger faster. Of course, you wanted to get stronger faster. Of course, you wanted to look like whatever term you want, whether it's you want to look jacked, whether you want to look ripped or big or yoked or whatever it is you want. You're a young guy. Of course, you're not getting there as fast as you want. However, I was trying to be mature and wise and be like, no, slow down. Of course, I'm not satisfied with it. Let's review my training. Let's review my diet, my recovery. That's pretty much the cycle I went in for years, never suspecting there was medically something holding me back, which obviously this video is about TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, but I also have some so-so thyroid. Thanks, mom and dad, for that. Yeah. But training that way for years. I do even distinctly remember at maybe 15 or 16, I was really proud on days when I could work up multiple warm-up sets to doing like sets of 5 at 205 pounds for deadlifts. Something that I can barbell row now. This was looking, if I could find my logs, I could tell you the exact dates, but I think maybe around 16 or so, it was, I eventually worked up to a 1 rep max in the deadlift of 365 in my early 20s. So over 7 years-ish, give or take, I went from 205 for 5 to 365 for 1. There are a lot of guys similar height, so like 5'8", 5'9", 5'10", and above. So some for someone relatively close to my height and my frame, I've heard of them from starting their training journey in early to mid teenage years in puberty, being able to go from beginning and like hitting less than 2 plates to potentially hitting like 4 plates in maybe only a few years. Not everyone can progress at that rate, but my point is, I was starting to realize, despite how open I am to being wrong in my methodologies of training, I just did not seem to be progressing very fast. And it took many years for me to finally start to be open to the idea of thinking, maybe it's not a fault with my training. Maybe it's not a fault with my diet or my recovery or something. So then that is when I just decided, not because of that specifically, but it was one of the reasons why I decided to eventually go back to the doctor and just get a general full panel blood work, because I had always had longevity and preventive health in mind. One of the reasons I wanted to get into diet and training. As I mentioned in some of my health reasons for why I wanted to start TRT, those were also many of the same health reasons I had been maintaining training as well. And I knew, looking at looking at blood work, maybe we could like see some early warning signs of just something that 10, 15, 20 years from now could become an issue, and just get working on it now. Well, it's easy to take care of. I had no idea what those things could be. I did know that I felt a little bit too suspiciously ready to take a nap at any time. Bear in mind, at this point, I think when I first went to get blood work, I was married at the time, did not have any kids, and did not have any particularly stressful job, still training and all that. So there weren't any major lifestyle or just life reasons in general for why I felt I didn't quite have the energy I should in my early 20s. It wasn't big, wasn't a hindrance, just it was present enough in my mind that I was like, this could be something real, or this could just be some weird placebo or a nocebo effect for me wanting to optimize, looking for a problem that might not exist. I didn't know which one it was. I was like, we'll go to the doctor, get a full preventive blood panel pulled up, and see what's going on. But between my first 2 rounds of blood work, we were able to see that there were multiple things that could contribute to a little bit of feeling of low energy. Low testosterone was definitely one of those. Low estrogen was as well. Both can cause feelings of low energy and even issues with putting on and maintaining muscle and strength, and issues losing body fat and such. However, I also had not exactly the world's greatest thyroid I mentioned. I had low vitamin D levels, and I think those were the main ones that all could potentially contribute to low energy. So that's when I realized, okay, there definitely is some stuff to work on. So I began trying to work on those. Nowhere was I was thinking of getting on TRT at this point. I went with the easiest one first, vitamin D3 supplements. So that got those levels in range easy, not too much of a surprise. Over multiple rounds of blood work, no significant improvements with thyroid, but it wasn't the biggest issue I had to begin with. But after multiple rounds over multiple years of not much stuff working with changing my testosterone levels or anything, that is when I decided to actually start the process of getting on TRT. That was my everything prior to my decision to actually get into it, is when I finally realized something was wrong. I'm not getting the progress I should be able to after many years of trying. And that's when I was like, okay, let's actually look at this. And when I started to knock out a few things that might contribute to low energy, and there still wasn't a notable difference, I was looking at those testosterone levels and realizing we need to do something about that directly. Let me tell you a little story that happened fairly recently. Actually, at the gym, I was talking with a regular there, and he's pretty much double my age, almost exactly, somewhere around 55. I'm 27 at the moment. He had been going to his doctor recently and just regular blood work, making sure all's well. His readings were fairly high for his age, apparently, somewhere in the mid 500s for totals. We didn't talk about free testosterone or any other aspects of blood work. This was just talking about totals, but it still works for the example. And his doctor, seeing that he was in the mid 500s, asked him, hey, are you already on something? Are you on TRT or anything like that? And ran to the gym, the regular had said, no, I've been training consistently, lifting heavy, eating good. He gave some examples of just healthy stuff he was doing. And his doctor was rather surprised. He said, normally for guys your age, I might get them at totals of maybe in the mid to high 300s. And that was the short version of his experience. I told him that's pretty wild, because for me, a good day for blood work would be getting me in the mid to high 300s for total test. And this is in my early 20s, when you should be at your peak natural Production, I was getting literally the same readings that you might expect in a 55-year-old man. So it wasn't good. So I was getting, in my early 20s, the readings his doctor would expect him to be getting currently at 55. Then, of course, on the inverse, he was getting readings at 55 that are much more what I would expect to be getting in my early 20s. Maybe a little bit low for early 20s, but not as in like you need to look into medication for it. That was just to illustrate how off my levels were, literally the levels of an old man. Hearing that story, looking back, I was like, well, no wonder progress was so difficult throughout all my years of training. Fear is a little bit of a strong word, but in all honesty, it really is a little bit of a fear as well. So I've seen examples of what it is to ultimately be frail in old age, and I wanted to avoid that as much as possible. I've worked with them and had to speak to them over the phone because I was in health insurance to a certain degree, and talking about what medications they have to deal with because of their diabetes and weight problem and muscle wasting, or seeing them just as like Walmart greeters or something at a store I worked at or visited. Actual family members who, in order to move a like 30-pound bag of soil from one side of a garage to the other, the solution in their mind was to pick it up 18 inches, put it on a little toy wheelbarrow, wheel it across, and then pick it back up and set it down instead of just picking it up and walking over to place it down. That wasn't my reason for getting into training when I was young and began, but that's really one of the big pushes I have now. Healthy body composition, enough muscle, enough lean mass, sufficient bone mineral density, and a lot of the other like cardiovascular benefits. And like there are numerous effects all across the body for training, for eating well, and in order to get a lot of those positive effects for longevity, just physically talking, for health reasons, not even talking about mental benefits, you need proper testosterone levels. Because as I was experiencing in my 20s, I had already reached effectively my peak physique, and I knew with life getting more difficult and me having to work harder and harder to maintain the same body composition I had, 50 years from now, there was basically no chance I would be able to maintain it, because life gets tougher and tougher. I'm working harder just to stand still, and I knew that wasn't a good long term. Due to basic entropy, where things deteriorate over time, I feel much better about having a very healthy body composition, 60, 70, 80, so sufficient lean mass, sufficient strength, so I don't have to worry about falling and breaking a hip, good bone mineral density, good mobility from maintaining lots of healthy movement. I feel better about reaching that in the future and maintaining more of that in my old age, and avoiding as much as is possible becoming frail, because I'm able to achieve better levels currently. Previously, when I had reached my peak physique, which was a body composition I would be very happy to have at, let's say, 60, be great. I'd be very happy with that. But if that's the best I could get at 25, not only was that not good for the long term, I didn't really like it now, because I've been watching for years at this point various different YouTubers or even people I knew at the gym and such, and they had always been able to perform and respond on a level I could never achieve, because it was so slow going for me to make progress. It always had been. I never had the spike in progress that most guys do when they begin puberty. So for a few examples, Jeff Nifford on YouTube, he is shorter than me, that is true, but brutally strong. He's a former powerlifter, bodybuilder. A lot of his lifts, for years I've been thinking, oh yeah, he's really strong. And in the back of my mind, I had also been thinking, with the rate of my progress, I'll never be able to do that. I'll never be able to top that. I might be able to get slightly closer than I am now. Now that I can properly respond to training, instead what's going through my mind is I'm significantly taller than that guy, which also means given enough years and proper training, I will be able to put on enough lean mass to not only potentially meet a lot of the same lifts he's done, but possibly exceed them. Similar example, another shorter athlete is Alex from Alpha Destiny, especially for a lot of his weighted calisthenics stuff. The heaviest pull-up he's gotten was, I think, 4 plates, so 180 pounds for a single on the weighted pull-up. Now in the past, I would see something like that and think, oh yeah, he's great, super strong, but quietly to myself think I'll never be able to get there. Now that I can properly respond to training, I'm now thinking, because I have greater potential to put on lean mass to fill out my taller frame, not only could I meet a lot of this guy's feats, but very likely exceed them. Like seeing these type of high-level athletes and thinking I might legitimately be able to beat these guys one day, at very least because I would be in a completely different weight class due to my height. It's a brand new thought, and that's a very exciting thought for me. On the opposite end, there's Brian Alsrew, who I believe is 6'2", so he's a little bit taller than me. Because of that, he has very likely greater potential to put on more lean mass than I do. So just in that regard, a lot of his lifts I might not ever be able to quite hit. Should at least very likely be able to get close. But he's a super strong guy. For years, thinking, yeah, I'll never be able to get that. But now I'm thinking, you know what? Maybe one day. That one day might be 10 years from now. But at the time of recording this, I've already been training for over 12. Most of that was even with very poor response to training, and I still stuck to it. So the idea of waiting 10 years to be able to at least match that guy who is very competitive in strongman, I'm fine with that. Because as I said, for the health reasons of getting into this, that at least means I'm maintaining lots of strength and size and the other benefits of training that I can carry with me into old age. But that also means I have a potential in the shorter term to actually be competitive. And honestly thinking that I can really be competitive in lifting and in sports now, it's really shifting things that really reflects in other areas of my life. The best way I have to describe what I'm trying to say is, with a child, they first gain their sense of self-confidence by physically doing something. Like a little kid that first learns how to walk, they are very proud of a very physical feat. Years and years later, them being able to gain confidence in physical feats can be abstracted to non-physical feats, such as learning how to read. That is what I feel is happening to me. Having greater confidence in being able to be competitive on a physical level and achieving things I've seen others achieve, and being able to think, I can't come up with a good reason why that can't be me. That is starting to get abstracted into other areas of my life as well. I am not normally a heavily ambitious or competitive guy, but I feel this very slowly starting to reshape how I am approaching life. That's even part of the reason I'm bothering to do this. Take time out of my day to record something, to eventually try to edit it, to put meeting out there, to be able to better express myself and maybe have my story have impact on others, to eventually shift what I'm doing job-wise, so that way I can do something that better fits my family, and that involves video editing. A lot of that extra push to make those changes and deal with the stress of taking on those changes in my life, and other ones too that I haven't discussed that aren't seen here, I feel like that is being fed from having started TRT and being abstracted from finally believing I can achieve something more just in my physical training and in my longevity. I'm really thinking the idea of an entire video dedicated just to the blood work and the details of being on TRT is really good. So thanks for watching.